Hello, welcome to the 4-H Shooting Sports Coordinator Coffee Got Partners. What a fantastic topic to talk about. I'm going to start with a little story. My intention was to give you a quote, but the other night I was at our county fair and we started a project where we were hoping to raise about $5,000. And when we started this process, it was at the end of a livestock auction for a new wash rack. And one person said, I would give $250. And it was a young person in the ring with his hog. About that time, the next person wanted to give 500 and then 1,000, and somebody else wanted to give 100. And this positive energy just kept building and building and building. And by the end of the night, we had raised just shy of $18,000. When I say the end of the night, I'm talking about in 10 minutes. And so when I think about partners, it got me thinking about the coordinator coffee today and this idea that our partners are looking for an energizing 4-H program. So as you think about and you listen today, think about what energy can your 4-Hers, your 4-H families, and your 4-H clubs bring to partnerships in your own community. With that, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Tammy Stewart. I am an extension educator out of Nebraska. Our moderator today is Scott Stewart, who's also out of Nebraska. And we have our guest, John Zinnel. Yay! Thanks for being here, John. Somebody that has a great history with 4-H shooting sports as well as partnerships in different positions. So, John, tell us a little bit about who you are and what does this conservation programs manager do? What's that job about?
Yeah, perfect. Well, I'll start just a little bit of a quick history about myself. So I live in Minnesota now. I was born in Minnesota, but raised in Iowa. I was a 4-H'er, a 4-H shooting sports enthusiast, really. I participated in all of the disciplines. So kind of shot it all. I have two older brothers and a dad who's a national instructor as well. So really grew up with it in the family. And they continue to be active and on different levels than where I'm at, but certainly 4-H is in our blood. So I really 4-H has taken me into the shooting sports industry. Lucky enough to get a job right out of college working for the Safari Club International, who was a large supporter for the ambassador program, which I went through. I was one of the first classes to ever go through the national 4-H shooting sports teen ambassador program. Back in, I think it was 2005 was the year I went through on training. So really kind of got to get in on the ambassadorship from the ground level and supported that while I was there, but also now continue to support it just from an outside perspective and sponsorship perspectives to help drive that program forward. So lots of history there. And when I was with Safari Club, I was working on their education and conservation outreach programs, getting more youth involved in the outdoors through shooting sports and mentored hunting and other outdoor activities. And then later went to the Mule Deer Foundation, where I developed their curriculum for outdoor education involving the shooting sports and partnerships with not only our chapter base within the organization, but partnering with other organizations to not reinvent the wheel, but to really leverage strengths to get more youth and families involved in outdoor sports, whether that was camping or hiking or hunting or shooting or any of those activities. So now I've been on shifting from the nonprofit side to the for-profit side on the corporate side. I've been now with the company for 5 years. I started with the parent company, which is called Vista Outdoor, where I worked across about 50 different outdoor brands and companies that we own. And so it was an interesting few years. I was there for 3 years on the corporate side, and now been on the ammunition business side for 2 of those years. Rounding out my 5-year tenure here with the company. But on the corporate side, it was really a great opportunity to see all different sides of outdoor recreation. I grew up in a hunting and shooting and fishing family, and that's really where my passion has driven. But within the brand umbrella, we have companies such as Camelback water bottles, or Bell or Giro bicycle helmets, or ski goggles, and we had a stand-up paddleboard company. I mean, just things that were certainly outside of my my background, my understanding, and really they have, a lot of their own worlds, just like we do on the shooting and hunting side. And so it was really a fun opportunity for me professionally to work across all of those brands to come together for common themes and common trends, and how we could find some of the similarities between different outdoor recreation sports, and how that kind of ties them back into the hunting and shooting side, and really come together. Because really, when you look at those audiences, they can really be two polar opposites of each other. They don't wake up every day wondering if they're going to have a case of 22 ammunition to take their county 4-H kids to go shooting. They work and worry about how big the waves are on their paddleboard track, and how many bicycles and helmets they need for their different activities. And so just as passionate on their programs as we are doing the things that we enjoy doing. So that was really an exciting time to kind of come together when the company was just getting spun off together, and all these companies were being pulled in. But really, at the same time, for me professionally, excited over the last 2 years to now really be on only the ammunition brands within our company. So I do all the same things, but only with ammunition. So on the ammunition side, Federal Ammunition being our largest, and specifically for 4-H, the longest, I think it's the longest sponsor, I believe. Conrad might be able to type in the chat there, but I believe we've been there since the beginning. So one of my mentors who used to work at Federal was at the table when they got the 4-H shooting sports program really rolled up and started, when it was back for the 4-H conservation camps, I believe is what it originally spun off of. And so our company has a long history with 4-H, and now we've added to our mix where we have CCI Ammunition, which is located in Lewiston, Idaho. Federal is here in Anoka, Minnesota. And then just recently, last fall, we bought Remington Ammunition out of bankruptcy, and they're located in Lonoke, Arkansas. They have obviously a very large history of supporting youth programs across the country. And so to tie all of these groups together and to really work and do what I do is really exciting for me personally and professionally, but also just to be able to share and to work through the support with great organizations like the 4-H is just fantastic. And so, as Tammy mentioned, so my title is a senior manager of youth shooting sports programs and conservation programs. And so certainly a long-winded title, but I really, consider myself kind of a jack of all trades. I dabble into a lot of different things. I'm not just on the marketing side. I also dabble into sales. I dabble into, some of our R&D side, because I'm such a public-facing employee where I get to interact with folks like yourselves and your customers, your shooters, and your coaches in your communities, to kind of get a grasp on maybe what is needed in the industry. What's next? What should our engineers be working on and developing, for 3, 5, 10, 15 years down the mix. And so in addition to all of that, then I also work on excuse me, on policy work, where I work through state legislative policy in regards to our products. So the most recent project I've been working on is our Fire Stick muzzleloader ignition system. So we patented a new technology that essentially uses a encapsulated powder charge that you would insert from the breech of your muzzle as your powder, and then you insert a primer then from the breech, but you still load everything through the muzzle with your ramrod like any other muzzleloader would be. But the definition of a muzzleloader is so different state by state. So as you start to investigate this, 50 states, and you look through there, you'll find there's a couple states that don't have a muzzleloader season. And then there's other states that have very strict muzzleloader hunting restrictions, where it's, a full on what you would consider primitive, round lead ball, powder patch type scenario, iron sights, no sabos, no inlines, no any of that. And then you've got others that it's very, very gray on the language. And so trying to work with those state wildlife agencies to update their regulations so that it's easily interpreted by their consumers, their end users, their licensed buyers. And so that's a full process all in itself. Something that I've not was never trained on. I just understood the process, and so here you go, throw me in, and away you go, type scenario, which I think is something that I've been lucky enough to learn those skills from 4-H, where you get so many opportunities to work across so many different disciplines, whether it's rifle to pistol to shotgun to muzzleloader to hunting skills. I mean, you guys know them all, let alone all the other great opportunities 4-H has to offer when it comes to livestock and other programs that are there. So that's kind of my background, all in a nutshell. Not to bore you too much with what it is that I do, but just to give you a little bit of an understanding of where it is. And I guess to elaborate one more thing, Tammy, before I go back to you, is talking today about partnerships and developing and maintaining and keeping. That's where a lot of that history I had on the nonprofit side, a lot of that was working together and bringing in partners, whether it be other youth developmental organizations or maybe larger donors to come in and to work through that. And so got a lot of history on that. And now in my job today, I manage the entire budget for all of those outreach opportunities. And I do have a presentation that I can pop up that I used just last week in the ambassador training that I think could, maybe help keep me on task, because I sometimes get long-winded. So
That's all good. I am so excited that you're working on muzzleloader. That was the last discipline I received my certification, and I dry balled it twice during the training, and it wasn't that long of a training. So it was anything to help me with muzzleloader, right? And then 2020 hit, and I only got to teach it one time. So I'm looking for some help there as I kind of explore and get that certification out and am able to use it. So. There's 3 words that really stuck out with me with what you just said. And it was keep, develop, and maintain. And not the right order. I think you said develop, maintain, and keep partnerships. And so I love, like, those words caught me. And so I hope that's kind of a little bit more where we eventually go with this, because I hadn't thought about the 3 aspects of partnership. So that was neat to hear. As you get ready to, and if you want to share your presentation, that's great. Just why does federal partner? Like, why partner? I mean, everybody wants your product. It's not, on the shelves where we always want it. So why do they choose to partner and go that extra step besides just sell?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Are you able to see my screen now?
I am.
Okay, good. Perfect. Well, so I threw a little bit this together. Obviously, it's me. It's a pretty boring slide, nothing exciting there. But I did want to just put a few topics. Obviously, I gave you the history of myself, history of our company, which I'll highlight just a little bit more to kind of answer your question there. I already talked a little bit about what I do, and this is the original way that I did it, was finding, keeping, and supporting partners. And so I'll kind of hit a little bit on that to touch of what you were talking to. And so the history of our company, it's something, honestly, it's so amazing to see. We're coming up, next year will be our 100th anniversary of building ammunition at our facility in Anoka, Minnesota, American-made ammunition. The history of the company is just fascinating. We have been with youth shooting and conservation programs from the beginning, and we've taken and not just on the shooting sports side, but we've taken very, very complex and challenging issues, and not just taking them and push them aside because we didn't want to work on them because of how much conflict there was there, but we've taken them to really go through. An example would be, waterfowl hunting, right? Back in the day, you used to be able to go hunting waterfowl with lead ammunition. Then a lot of research was coming, dabbling ducks, other challenges with those ducks, eating and grabbing that lead and having the toxicity, elevated enough to cause issues and concerns. And so with that, we've, we adjusted, we changed, we sat at the table with other partners and worked through the process to figure out what it is that we needed to do. We took science-based evidence and we took that and we figured out what the issue was. We developed things to address those issues and concerns and then move forward to be able to go through there. And another one I'll highlight on is kind of funding of conservation in our country. But so we are a company that we're not just a business. We're not just out, making ammunition and making money and paying paychecks, but we truly do believe in the next generation and the heritage of our country. And so I always like to share, our mission, which is at, the entrance of every one of our doors going into our factory. We have, a couple thousand employees here in Anoka, 1,000 in Lewiston, 1,000 plus down in Lonoke. And so several thousand employees building ammunition. So, our mission is to build better ammunition, to create community power defense, and to conserve our heritage. And so really where my focus is with the company is that last section of conserve our heritage, which I look at it as not only the conservation side of really making sure that the critters of our North America here and others are in a population to be hunted or to be viewed or to be seen, but really just a healthy ecosystem is really where we're involved with that. And then I also think of our heritage as the next generation, those folks, your consumers, your end users, which are our end users, which are your not licensed buyers. Sorry, I'm used to talking to state agencies, but your members, right? Your 4-Hers that are there at your county clubs or state events. That's the next generation. And I really do highlight this often on our internal conversations of supporting organizations, youth development organizations. That's what I call them, because you're all about shooting sports. Other organizations are all about shooting sports, but you're really a youth development organization. The skills, the life skills that you guys put forth while using shooting sports as the driver is just phenomenal. And to be able to tell the story of 400,000 kids running through 4-H shooting sports across the country every year, out of that, are all 400,000 of them going to become, the next Amber English or Vinnie Hancock winning gold medal in Tokyo? No, they're not. But they're going to learn amazing life skills by participating in shooting sports and by following leadership and leaders and the 4-H leadership across this country that is just fascinating. The kids that come through the 4-H program, you can almost spot them when you're looking through different organizations. And I go to all these shoots across the country that are not 4-H, but I can count and point and see which one of them do participate in 4-H shooting sports just by the way they carry themselves and how they act and how they how just the kind of people that they are, which to me, it proves that supporting these organizations is just so important for our company. And so I take it very passionately. I was talking with my boss. I've had just a wild couple of months here, so I've been kind of out of pocket and not communicating to him as much as I should. But he called me last night at around 6:00 and pretty much told me that he's like, hey, you got to stop emailing on Friday nights. You got to stop emailing on Saturday and Sunday. And I say, I get it. I understand that. But I said, I'm just so passionate about it. So regardless of what I end up getting paid or what I'm supposed to be doing, I don't want to be the one to drop the ball that's going to hurt or challenge the support of our next generation. And so I personally, like to carry that on my shoulders to move forward, because I think that it's an important part. And luckily, our company believes the same. So our current president of ammunition is very much a supporter of youth shooting sports. He came up through, he was a previous junior national champ in sporting clay. So he's a shooter, he understands it all. So that's great to be able to see that support.
So John, as you're
so with that, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, as you're hitting on this, I mean, what I'm taking away is that you have to know your mission. Because when you say where your mission here works with 4-H's mission that says conserve our heritage, so much of 4-H is about the heritage and the traditions we pass on, and it sounds like federal is the same way. So is that kind of what I'm hearing, is definitely find a partner that aligns with the mission?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I kind of, hit a little bit more on my personal side or whatever, but like I am, you got to find your why. And you see that on the slide there or whatever. So everybody has their why of what it is that they do, why they do it. And so obviously my history provides me with a very strong why I do it. And that's, growing up in that 4-H community, growing up as a hunter and a shooter, and in a great family, and now continuing my own family and moving forward into there. But I think that really falls in line with your comment of, you really want to find a partner that aligns well with your organization. So that can be across many things. It can be completely outside of the window of your partnerships. Don't always have to be, the gun shops in town or the local, maybe it's a larger manufacturer like us, Federal Ammunition or whatever. They can be other things because there's so many other things that connect, specifically through what you guys do in 4-H, of that developing the next generation with life skills that will connect with the owner of a tire shop, or maybe a vice president at a bank, or somewhere along there. It's just unbelievable. And I'm sure every single one of you that are on this call can contest to being able to go into a business and having some sort of a connection to do with 4-H, whether it was them when they were kids, or maybe it was them supporting at the county fair through buying ribbon auctions, or whatever the case may be. Maybe they're shooters and they didn't know anything about 4-H. They didn't even know that 4-H offered a shooting sports program. But here's this, VP at the local bank that loves to go shooting every Tuesday night for league, and you can have that connection to find what may fit, what may align with a partnership. And so I think you hit the nail on the head, Tammy, when you said, finding those partners that align with the missions. And obviously you are all very familiar with the 4-H mission. And so I know you can find them locally and regionally and nationally even.
So as I think about this and our partners, so everybody that's on the call today, right, is coming to partner with 4-H. And so those of you that are listening in, just type in the chat quick. What's your why? Like, why have you decided to partner with 4-H shooting sports? Just type in the chat, because I think that would be kind of fun and interesting to see here when we close out the program today. So, John, what does federal, how does your company find their partners? How do they identify them? And then how do they kind of pursue their partnerships with nonprofits?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously with a company as old as we are and as large as we are, there's lots of folks that are reaching out and interested in partnerships. And because of that, we're not able to support everybody at every single level possible, unfortunately, but we try to manage and to work through the best. And so what we do is we as in, myself, I'll present to a lot of different teams within our group of ammo businesses, because we all kind of have our own employees even within our ammo business unit here. Some really strong opportunities to support the next generation, really following that mission and finding the partners that align with there. And so, here's a little slide, obviously, on the history of us with 4-H. So 4-H is one that we've had a really long-term relationship with. So something that we continue to maintain. And then as we've added other companies to the portfolio, the umbrella, there's been other companies that have stepped in to support, 4-H, RCBS Reloading, Champion Targets, Hoppy's Gun Cleaning. We owned Savage Firearms for a while. They were a big part of it. So you'll see a lot of other Vista Outdoor brands that were supporting the 4-H and continue to support the 4-H because they believe and they feel that their company mission aligns with the 4-H mission. And so that is a very large part of it. So I'll go through and show you just a few on the slide here. This is just a little screenshot of some of the organizations that we do support on, that education outreach and youth support and shooting sports side. Everything from, the Youth Shooting Sports Alliance, which is a nonprofit organization that supplies equipment to teams that are just getting started, where maybe you have members to your county program that don't have the funding to buy a firearm or a bow. That organization, that's what their mission is. That's what they drive to do, is they have a warehouse with firearms and archery equipment, and they do equipment grants where, XYZ County can apply for a grant for 6 bows and 2 22 rifles and a couple shotguns for no cost. They get them shipped to there, they use them, they do there. The only cost associated is the freight back. So you get one little cost on there, but you can get that many more kids going. So that's obviously what I'm very passionate about. I'm actually their president of their board of directors. And so we really work together in the industry to pull in support to get more kids involved, because we do know that there's some challenges financially. It's an expensive sport, as you all are aware, and all of your members are aware. We do SCTP and obviously the 4-H shooting sports on there. As well as a lot of the conservation groups that do outreach programs, kind of bridging the gap between shooters and hunting and conservation and telling that story. And so we do a lot of support there to kind of tell how that works. And as that goes through on the conservation side, those nonprofit organizations, supporting not only their R3 efforts, but also their conservation efforts, knowing that there's so much crossover with wildlife conservation in our country and how important that is to everybody, and the support that's there, and working with state wildlife agencies and so forth is a big part of that as well. So when it comes to, the whole finding and keeping and supporting your partners, you'll see on those 2 slides, I'll go back to this one again, just dozens and dozens of organizations. It's finding that person that aligns, that mission that aligns, whether it's a tire shop, whether it's a larger national organization, and then keeping really has to do with supporting as well. So what can a 4-H program, whether it's county, state, or national, do to support those partners? That's a big thing. Everybody, in business, it's ROI, right? What's your return on investment? If I'm going to spend XYZ number of dollars here, what am I going to get in return that's going to help me sell more ammunition or do better for where there is? So, do my bosses ask for ROI? Absolutely they do, because it's a business and it's a numbers game. Can I always provide them? Unfortunately, no. I can tell them that, hey, we were able to get in front of so many people, but as far as did that person go and buy that product, it's hard to tell, right? So that, that's how that marketing numbers and how that stuff goes. And you'll hear and see that stuff, but, just some topics, I guess, and some points to maybe take home on the what can you do to support your partners. There's lots of different things. So when I see this conservation support, one thing I worked on when I was working with the Mule Deer Foundation and bringing together all these partners to do these educational outreach programs was, something we called adopt a team, right? So we had our chapters and they would adopt a shooting team. They would bring that shooting program into their chapter, whether it was when they were doing a conservation project, planting bitter brush or taking down fences or whatever that is, Pheasants Forever, they'll do other things, planting grasses, doing wildfires, all that kind of stuff, but we brought those teams in to teach them about what it is that our organization was doing for our mission, which was, to conserve mule deer habitat. And it was just fantastic to see that relationship, right? You get all the shooters, all the youth participants, but there's their parents, their coaches that are now getting involved in the chapter side. And then they would also invite them to come to their banquets and to speak. And we would have kids get up and talk about their experiences when they came to a project, or their experiences with shooting and where it's gotten them today. And they use them as kind of a keynote, but it's also a developmental opportunity for those kids and those programs to offer something different. So we called that the Adopt a Team program. And then in return, those kids helped bus tables and they worked at the banquet and sometimes sold raffle tickets or stood around and helped with registration and all of that. And then they received a donation then to their program after the fact, financial contribution to help them drive, because everything, costs money, right? They can't continue to sustain a program without some of that funding to support what they need to do. And so, that was one example of a great opportunity where it was really a give and a take and a push and a pull to come together, to where the conservation organization needed some help, needed some warm bodies. The youth team needed some more funding and some learning opportunities, developmental opportunities. We put them together, and it was really a great opportunity. And you can take that same type of concept and put it towards other opportunities, whether it's, working with a local bank or a local tire shop or a local clothing department store, whatever it may be, and finding out if there's an opportunity there for a developmental opportunity for your shooters. Maybe they, the banker participates in another program within the community that helps to, work at a city park and plant flowers, or do, I mean, all sorts of different things, right? You can bring in your 4-H program and help him, and then he's going to help you, he or she will help you to support your organization. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities to give back. And I think by giving back, that's where you're really going to be supporting that partner and maintaining that partner for future opportunities, to be able to keep growing, keep supporting, and keep working forth towards your mission.
This is just so fascinating seeing the different groups that you guys are already partnering with and what you're doing. And I'm excited for our second half here in a few minutes where I really want to delve into the R3 because we're having our statewide meeting on Wednesday for the R3. And I think that's the place that you go to find partners right now is through the R3 initiative that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when somebody decides to partner, whether it is to give money, to bring in speakers on careers that you can do after shooting sports with your shooting sports experience, what are like the top 3 things that a partner wants in return from a 4-H club? Like one thing that we hear often is give us a shout out on social media. So what are the top 3 that you think partners would want?
Yeah, certainly. As social media continues to grow across all the platforms that I don't even keep up with anymore, any opportunity for that. I think another one that's great that I think, anybody could pick up their local newspaper and see a highlighted story about your county fair or about a project that the 4-Hers have done. So I think an opportunity for, call it, the PR of any type, right? Press relations of whether it's social media, whether it's a local county newspaper, all of that, to be able to tie in the support to show the community who it is that supports such a great program, right? So if there's an opportunity to give a shout out to your donors via a public forum like that, it goes a really, really long way to know that XYZ, sports shop or XYZ tire shop, whatever, supported that program. So I do think that that's a great program and opportunity. The other one is to really give kind of a twofold deal here, right? At the end of your program timing, whether it's an 8-week program or maybe the state shoot or whatever, would be just to give a quick one pager, an opportunity for one of your members to take a physical copy of something, right? A one pager that talks about bullets that, thank you so much, Bob George, whatever, VP at the local bank, for your support. Because of what you did to support, you helped and assisted, 462 shooters participate in our county regional shoot, where, and then maybe make it personal and say where, Johnny, beat his personal record, and he couldn't have done that without support of partners like you, where you can take something like that and make it personal and bring it back into there. And along with that, is thank you cards, and how important. I say this to the ambassadors, I say it to everybody. I'm still a huge believer in thank you cards, to where I'll try to send a handful out every other week to just folks that I had a conversation with that, thought of me when they were going through something and reached out, and we had a great conversation. Or maybe it's somebody that hosted me or took me around while I was at a shooting venue or an event, just to kind of give me the rundown on everything. So to go along with that personal note back, as far as the local partners go, to provide a list of folks to write thank yous to is huge, right? I have stacks and stacks of thank you card goes so far. So I would say, if you can show some ROI, that's great. If you can say, because of your support, we were able to host, our county program with 48 athletes this year, which brought us 12 more than last year. And, we thank you for your support. Those types of numbers are great. But just a personal thank you goes so far.
That is awesome. So as we wrap up our first half of coordinator coffee here, Um, Final word of advice, and I do want you to end with this slide, by the way, after
Yeah.
you give us our final word of advice, because this is such an important concept for all of us to understand how funding happens for our natural areas. So, what's your kind of final advice for a 4-H club leader that's ready to partner and has that kind of passion and enthusiasm that you've shown today?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I would say as a kind of a best practice would be to really go into conversations and reaching out to all of the various folks, whether it be local, national, regional, whatever it may be, um, with an open mind, right? So I mean, there's so many people in a day, and it's a really, really hard thing to do to say no to somebody. But to understand that not everybody that you reach out to is going to be able to support for a lot of various reasons, whether it's just their company financial status, whatever, or maybe like for example, for us, we have a hard time supporting at the local county level because we support at the national level in hopes to support that national organization to trickle down to help that growth. And so that's where a corporation like we have to support at the high level to trickle down, because there's only one of me, and you saw the list of organizations. If we start going down into county levels, it certainly causes challenges. So what we've done to adapt to that is that we do a sales program where we offer a discount to direct sales towards 4-H teams or other competitive shooting teams to purchase our ammunition at a discount in bulk, so they don't have to go and try to chase that through, which obviously during today's time is very important for those folks. And so we've found different ways to do that. Other corporations will do the same thing where they'll have other opportunities to do so. So really go into your asks with an open mind and know that you're not going to get funding or support from everybody, right? And that doesn't mean to turn your head towards away from them or whatever. Like they're still great. They still probably want to support. They just, you know, that they can't support everywhere. So I would say by all means, go into it with an open mind, and certainly don't go into it feeling like you're entitled for support or you know, I run into that on occasion where somebody feels like, well, you're the world's largest ammunition manufacturer. Why in the world would you not support my program? Well, you know, sir or ma'am, like we would absolutely love to, but you know, we just can't, you know, we can't support everybody. And so as long as you have that open mind going into it and really are able to share, you know, kind of where that aligning happens with how your mission is to their mission, or maybe understand a little bit of their background, would be important. And now I guess the background side is do your homework, do your educate, know who it is you're talking to before you go in there. So make sure that you know your audience before you jump into asking them for money. So that's another important aspect of it.
So I don't know if you know that we can see your presentation slide, so we know
Oh,
your
good.
wisdom that's up there. You want to hit on your words of wisdom and then come back to the Pittman?
Oh, you can see. Oh, I didn't even push the right thing. So you got it all right there. So I will go. Yeah. So words of wisdom. This is based on supposed to be for the ambassador program, but it very much can pass down to, you know, where you guys are going in and having these conversations. And obviously, always have positive attitudes, communication, persistence. There, never give up, and keep going back. But keep going back with that. With respect, you know, and not just going through with an entitlement of feeling like you need to get funding or support or whatever. You know, education, always be open for new things. You know, the experience, right? And that's where you can take these kids and you can share with them opportunities to grow and to understand or learn different marketplaces, to where, you know, when they're 12 or 13 years old and they get a chance to talk with a group of city councilmen or whatever the case may be, that may drive them towards something that they would like to do and aspire towards, you know, later on in life. And then, you know, always be professional and so forth. So if you've got a group of kids going in to walk around and to meet with some of these folks or whatever, you know, not that they have to be all high and tight and you know, wearing a suit and tie by any means, but you know, most all 4-H programs have some sort of a t-shirt or a polo or a uniform of some level that these kids utilize, you know, as they're going around and sharing their stories with everybody.
So thank you. This is just fantastic. I really want you to end with the Pittman Robertson Act or tax, because to me, this is one of the greatest partnerships of all times of nursing mothers and people in the outdoors. how this actually got passed because of this fantastic partnership to get the act passed, which I'm sure you're not going to talk about that, but please go look up the history if you don't know the history of how this was able to get passed. But please tell us more about how Pittman Robertson is such a phenomenal idea that drives our passions in our industry forward when it comes to 4-H shooting sports.
Yeah, so it's just it's a fantastic story, and there's so many different things. I don't know if anybody here subscribes to the Outdoor Wire. It's kind of an online, news type of story. And Tammy, if you have an e-blast out to everybody, I'd love to share a story with you that was wrote. And I talked a lot about 4-H. So it was a national newsletter, goes to tens of thousands of people, and it talks about and highlighted and hyperlinked back to a lot of programming. And I specifically talked about 4-H. And the reason being is the gal that wrote the story's daughter is from Colorado, and her daughter shoots in 4-H shooting sports. So she understands the program. I've known her mom for a long time, whatever. She wrote this huge story for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that talks about funding for conservation and funding for youth shooting sports across our country and how that actually comes to play. Most people don't understand that state wildlife agencies have two forms of funding. They get funded through license sales, hunting, fishing, trapping, all of those license sales, and they get funded through the Pittman-Robertson federal excise tax or the Dingell-Johnson tax, which is the same thing but for fishing and water sports and so forth. But the Pittman-Robertson tax is 11% on finished ammunition, long guns, shotguns, 10% on handguns. But that tax is built into all of those things. And as a manufacturer, we pay that tax back to the federal government, gets put into a fund. And then from that fund, it gets issued out in grants to state wildlife agencies for restricted spending. So it's for wildlife conservation, it's for land preservation, it's for R3 things such as hunter education and getting more people involved. They just did a Target Marksmanship Act, I think in 2019, where it changed the breakout structure of how much money through this FET could be used for shooting ranges, knowing that that was a very large challenge. It was a big hurdle for a lot of growth across the country in shooting sports, was just simply not having a place to shoot. So they changed the structure to allow more funding availability using this federal excise tax, FET, in for building shooting facilities to grow hunter education courses, to grow participation and support organizations like 4-H and others to give them a safe environment to shoot. And so it's tens of millions of dollars. I mean, you can see there in that description there is, our company, that was some older numbers, but for the first 5 years of Vista Outdoor, we were averaging $85 million per year. We were writing checks into for this federal excise tax, this Pittman-Robertson excise tax. And that was based during that time. We had a firearm manufacturer within our company and then our ammunition company. So since we've sold our firearms, but we've bought 2 additional ammo companies. And so so in the story that I'll share with Tammy hopefully will share with you, we talk about how we're hundreds of millions of dollars over the last several years to go into this federal excise tax. And there's nobody else in this country. This is the great part about it, right? When you talk about everybody enjoys watching animals, hiking trails, fishing on lakes, there's nobody else that pays more for wildlife conservation than hunters and shooters. It is just fascinating, the dollars, and to do research. If you've not done this, this is a fantastic story to share with your county groups, right? All the way down to every box of ammunition that you buy, 11% of that dollar is going into wildlife conservation and supporting. To the most recent research say that 85% of all of the FET, all of the federal excise tax of this Pittman-Robertson, 85% of that is coming from target shooters and not hunters. So really, when you look at it, the vast majority of this funding is coming from target shooters to support wildlife conservation in our country. No other country does it like we do, and nobody has the success stories like we do. So it's very, very exciting to see that in that that article that Tammy will send around, or somebody will send around to you, really has a lot of really great hyperlinks to be able to jump in and find some additional information, because it's a fantastic lesson to be sent across to all the 4-Hers.
And for those that might be watching this on YouTube at a later date, please know that in order to get on that list of where I'll send out links and things like that, you need to sign up for the 4-H Coordinator Coffee, which is the first Friday of each month through December of 2021. John, before we go into our second cup, we'd like to officially thank you for joining us today. What fantastic information. And we invite everybody to our September 3rd Coordinator Coffee at noon Central Standard Time.